If this Penn State men's hockey team can put it all together at the right time, this is absolutely a sleeper team in the NCAA tournament.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are talking some Penn State men's hockey as we look at the season as a whole. This team could be a sleeper team for the NCAA tournament. This is Locked On Nittany Lions. I'm your host, Seyko, and thanks so much for joining us on this bonus segment here. Eric Ohlson is the Penn State men's hockey color commentator, special guest on the show today, and also does play-by-play, part of the broadcast team alongside Brian Tripp. And you can listen to all those games on GoPSUSports.com as well as the local radio feed too. So Eric, let's address that right out of the gate. Guy Gadowsky running the show again. I think he's done a phenomenal job with this program, but everybody is looking for Penn State to not make just a Cinderella run anymore, to get to the Frozen Four, be an actual contender with any of those powerhouses that we all know. Minnesota, of course, Denver, the likes of them, right, that the diehard college hockey fans know. So Penn State, this is kind of a team that has a combination of young and old. There's veterans, there's newcomers, guys that are on the cusp of breaking out. This is a sleeper team, in my opinion, but how close are they actually? If they peak at the right time, could they make a deep run in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Zach. Good to be talking hockey. I think, look, this is a program that's never not going to be in the conversation for the tournament, I think. I think that's where they're at as a program now, what they've been able to establish themselves as. And I absolutely see that they could be a tournament team. You know, last year we talked a lot, as much of a roller coaster of a season it was, they still had a chance. There were some games where one or two things go their way and it's a very different result. And once those wins start adding up, you could be looking at a very different result. I think that they ended up finishing somewhere around maybe 24 or 25th in the pairwise. And you win some of those Big Ten games, all of a sudden you start vaulting up and who knows what could have happened. But I think this year it's certainly within the realm of possibility of making the tournament. I think they have the team that can do it. They are absolutely playing unreal hockey defensively right now. They're a top 10 team in the country defensively, which it's been a very long time since you can say that about a Penn State hockey team.
Right.
On the other side of that, they're struggling a little bit offensively right now, which is also surprising to say of a Penn State hockey team. So it's still so early in the season. There's so much that can happen, but you start stacking some Big Ten wins. You take care of business in the non-conference, which they've done so far outside of the one loss to Quinnipiac, and you're looking at a pretty good resume. So I think this is a team that has the pieces, but again, it all has to come together. You have to execute on the ice. You have to get those wins, which they weren't able to do last year, and see what happens. But I think it's definitely possible to make the tournament.
Let's talk about that defense, as you pointed out, that a Guy Gadowsky team is typically a team when he puts out there, the one that he puts out there on the ice is going to throw a lot of shots at the net. They are going to pepper the opposing goalie as many times as they can and hope just enough we're able to fall in. And that's how they normally win. But they have a change at goalie. Soulier was the guy that's manned the net for Penn State in years past. And Arseny Sergeyev is now the starting goaltender for Penn State. So what is this change? Is it the back line? Is it the defense that is really helping them out? Or is it the change in goalie that's kind of offered a little more reinforcement for Penn State's defense?
It's a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Hockey is one of those sports where it takes everyone. There may be some games where your goaltender's standing on their head and winning the game for you. There may be games where it's the team defense in front of your goalie. And there could be games where it's a combination of all of that. And I think Penn State's getting a combination of all of that right now. Arseny Sergeyev is playing unreal in that. Like it is fun to watch. If you haven't seen him, you got to watch him play, because he is an absolute stud of a goaltender. Getting him from UConn was a huge pickup in the portal. And he was a guy that Guy was talking about how they targeted him early. They knew he was a guy they wanted to bring in. And through the course of the phone calls they had and the Zoom calls they did, they realized he was the perfect fit for Penn State, not just because he had good numbers, but because of his personality, because of the culture he was going to bring to the locker room. He's said multiple times this season, the team will run through a wall for Arseni. And that says a lot about your goaltender if you have that type of relationship with your team. So he's playing unreal in net, making the big saves. And, last year, look, Liam Souliere was a good goaltender at Penn State. He had big moments. He won a lot of big games. He helped set the NCAA record for largest shutout in a tournament when they were in that Allentown Regional and beat Michigan Tech 8-0. He was a good goaltender, but last year the struggles hit everyone. He wasn't playing his best. Noah Grannon wasn't playing his best. The team defense in front of them were not their best. They had the second worst combined save percentage of goaltenders in the country. You're not going to win hockey games like that. And now you have a goaltender in net who is a top 10 goaltender in the country of ones who have played at least 5 games this season in both stats. So that's save percentage and goals against average. He's making the big saves. Penn State as a team, and he's played every minute so far as well, Arseni in net. Penn State as a team, they haven't given up more than 3 goals in a game yet this season. So that's a testament to what he's doing, but also what they're doing in front of him. They're blocking a lot of shots. They're playing cohesively as a unit. It takes all 5 guys on the ice to defend. It can't just be 1 or 2. It's helped by Simon Mack and Cade Christensen. So you have a senior paired with a freshman on defense. They're Penn State's number 1 D pair right now. Mack is the captain. He's played the most minutes of anyone on the ice defensively. He is a rock star on the back end. And Cade Christensen is a big guy who can skate. He's using his body. He's blocking shots. So they formed a great duo. And just as a whole, they're doing a great job in front of Arseni. The PK is number 3 in the country right now. They've only allowed 1 power play goal, which is just a remarkable stat. So all of that is adding up into what they're doing defensively. And now, again, you're just waiting for that offense to click and find its rhythm. And once it does, look out. Because like I said, they have the pieces to be a great team. It's just a matter of putting it all together.
Still to come on this preview of Penn State men's hockey, we're going to talk about how this offense can put it all together. And this schedule is as daunting as it gets. We'll talk about it next on the other side of this break. And today's episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience. And the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchase may apply. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet just $5 and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more. And it's all on the same page where you place your bets. It's that simple. It's that convenient. You just got to visit FanDuel.com and join today. And if you look at FanDuel.com, the lines are posted for Penn State versus Purdue, the football game this Saturday. Penn State is a lofty 28.5 point favorite, minus 8,000 on the money line. If you're looking to bet Purdue money line, plus 2,200, the total is set at 50.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them now at FanDuel.com. And remember, you will get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, that's FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. This core that if the offense, like you said, can click And that might take time. That is going to take time because, like I said, you have players that are just stepping up into these bigger roles. Danny Genev, who was more of a rotational kind of guy, would give you that magical goal over the past 2 seasons, is now one of the faces of the team. Most people are going to know about Aiden Fink. He is arguably Penn State's best player overall. And then you have a Reese Laubach, right? So this core, what separates them from other teams, not only in the Big Ten, but across the country, to say that this group can, if they achieve their best, their highest potential, what is it about that group that makes them so special?
They're just really good hockey players. And look, you watch Fink skate, and it's mesmerizing to watch. When Connor McDavid is playing, you turn the game on because you want to see him skate and see what he can do with the puck. I think Fink has a little bit of Connor McDavid in him. When he gets his feet moving and he's just shimmying and shaking up and down the ice, it's fun to watch. And he can have the puck on a string. He had a great freshman season last year. He started really hot this season. Both he and Danny Genev, they actually carried point streaks from the end of last season into this season. Danny at one point was up to 10 games in a row with a point, and that was one shy of the program record that Evan Barrett set a few years ago. So they've cooled off a little bit, but the team as a whole has as well. But when you're talking about a core, you're talking about guys who are going to play together for quite a while. You have last year the kid line, Aiden Fink, Reese Laubach, Mac DeMarsico. Those guys are just sophomores. They're going to be a huge part of this offense. Then you have a Danny Genev who's playing his best hockey, his most consistent hockey now as a senior leader on this team. And then you bring in a freshman class of forwards who have scored the most goals and most points of any recruiting class Penn State's ever brought in. So there's a lot of excitement with these guys. We're talking players like Charlie Serrato, who has been excellent as a centerman, one of the best on the team. Keaton Peters, who he and Serrato are leading the team right now in faceoff percentage. They're right around or just over 60%, which is a remarkable place to be. Nick DeGraves, who's going to be another really good centerman. These guys, they're going to contribute. JJ Webush is a goal scorer. You watch him shoot the puck, and you see maybe a little bit of Ryan Kerwin in him. So there's guys that are going to have an impact for a long time. And I know just through conversations with the coaching staff, they feel like this is just the beginning of this program getting back to where it was in that 1920 season where they won the Big Ten regular season title. And they were going to be probably a Frozen Four team. They were playing that well before COVID ended the postseason for everyone. So there's a lot of excitement about the recruiting class they brought in. And then you pair that with the guys who are sophomores right now and contributed so much offensively last year. There's a lot of great future potential.
Let's look at the schedule because the Big Ten is always going to be a gauntlet one way or another. And it almost, the power structure does shift. I feel like Penn State, they adjust well because they're never one of the top teams. They're always that team that's on the outside looking in. They have potential. They just need to kind of hit that point at the right time, right? They need to peak at the right time because I look at this Big Ten, and yes, Minnesota is always going to be the cream of the crop, but Michigan State has successfully had a rebuild. Michigan's always going to be a top 10 team, a team like, and then they face Ohio State. Then they face a team like Notre Dame that's included in the Big Ten as well. And all those teams at their base, at their floor, are going to be top 20 opponents in terms of the pairwise or just the eye test. Honestly, even if they don't match up that way, even if they don't rank that way going into that week, you know that in terms of overall talent, that this is going to be a top 10, a top 20, or a top 10 team when all's said and done. I mean, Eric, from your point of view, this is obviously probably a very exciting schedule because of the way that the schedule flows back and forth. You go to Pagula, then you travel. You also have some games like Army in the Capital One Arena in DC, and then going to Wrigley Field for Notre Dame. What kind of challenge does this schedule actually pose in comparison to maybe in years past?
This year, it's definitely a unique one. You start off with a road trip to Alaska to open your season.
Yeah, and you win both of them.
You win both of them. It's a grueling trip. It's a long travel to get there. And then you come back. Then you end up going on the road for one game at Quinnipiac. a game they ended up losing. They didn't have a great start, found themselves in a hole, battled back, had a chance to tie it in the third period. And now you hope that's going to be a quality loss. So you hope Quinnipiac does well in the ECAC and goes on a run. So that's a quality loss for you. But then, you get some bye weeks mixed in there, one home series against St. Lawrence, and then you go on the road to Minnesota. It's kind of crazy that we're approaching mid-November. They've only had 2 home games. Yeah. So it's a lot of road travel. It's a lot of, bye weeks early in the season. So it's kind of unorthodox in that sense. And you go on the road to Minnesota, who, you mentioned it, is one of the best teams in the country again this year. Mm-hmm. You fall in game 1, and then game 2 come out and hold the number 1 offense in the country to 12 shots, and unfortunately end up losing 1-0. The Minnesota scored with 26 seconds left in the third period. That was kind of a gut punch because Penn State played great. Again, that was a team that was scoring over 5 goals per game, and you hold them to 12 shots and 1 goal. That's the type of game where you got to find a way to win, but it's early in the season, so you try to take lessons from that and be better for it as the Big Ten season goes on. But look, you want to play great hockey, you come to the Big Ten. It's a tight conference. It's hard to win. Anybody can beat anyone. There's really no ceiling and basement like there is in other conferences. Yeah, Michigan State and Minnesota are certainly the top of the conference right now. But anyone can beat anyone. And that's the great thing about hockey, and that's the great thing about the Big Ten. So, Penn State was 1 shot from beating Minnesota in game 2 and, knocking off, I think at the time they were the number 4 team in the country. So it can be done. And again, it just takes putting everything together. But now you get 6 home games in a matter of 13 days. So it was a lot of time away from Pagula. Now you got a good home stretch coming up. So hope to get some home cooking going and rack up a few points with Wisconsin this weekend, Michigan next weekend, and then just a few days off before Colgate during that Thanksgiving week. And then you mentioned it, you got the game in DC against Army, and then the Frozen Confines game in Wrigley, which is going to be a ton of fun against Notre Dame. And then, down the stretch in the second half of the season where they're not going to have an off week. So that is going to be a challenge as well with these early bye weeks that they had with how the schedule played out. They're not going to have an off weekend from the time they get going again in January until whatever happens in the Big Ten tournament. So you try to stay healthy, rack up as many points as you can, but certainly a different season from one they're used to.
If you want an expert look, an expert opinion anytime on Penn State men's hockey, you talk to Eric Ohlson. He is the color commentator for the Penn State men's hockey broadcast team, fills in at play-by-play, but does a great, fantastic job with Brian Tripp there. So if you want to listen to those games anytime, they will be covering all of them. Go psusports.com or the local radio feed. Eric, thank you so much for the time. And as Penn State moves throughout the season, I can't wait to pick up this conversation again and assess how they're doing.
Yeah, sounds good, Zach. Thanks.